How much is technology now a narrative for you? If we thought of the first Harry Potter film and now the first Fantastic Beasts film, technology lets you go places that you couldn't have.
You know, it gets better all the time. Yeah. So in terms of animation and real environments, the processing power's getting better year by year. Ultimately, though, it's still how that's interpreted and presented. And the artists who work on it, you know, the animators, the concept artists, because that's really, it's how the technology is deployed that's the crucial thing. But it's kind of exciting. One of the things that we have now, which we never used to have, which I think is a bit scary actually, is we can now put digital doubles in the background. It's very freaky actually. So, you know, when I was shooting Fantastic Beasts in New York City, I've got 300 extras in the midground and foreground. Yeah. And then somewhere in the background is another 2,000 digital people. But they're still, you know, if you really look at them carefully, they have some strange walking cycles. And I often go...
But you would really have to scrutinize.
I know, you would have to scrutinize. But it is conceivable now that you could have your foreground actors and then everyone in the background. And I heard of a movie recently whereby instead of employing all the background artists, the extras, they scanned people. They scanned people, and then they just recreated as many background people. And my heart sinks a little bit as people propose that, because I think, where will the reality go? Where will the authenticity go? Exactly. And where will all those jobs go? Yeah. But we're away from that at the moment. So technology is a great, amazing thing, and it's a challenging thing. Yeah.
Do you think we are in a bit of a reverse situation where there will be books after films?
That's interesting, actually, that we're certainly releasing a book of this screenplay because there are so many of Joe's fans who would love to read it. I don't think you can beat a great book, though, quite honestly. And a book form of a screenplay is never the most digestible of reads. A screenplay is never really going to be as rich or as ambitious a read as a book, unfortunately. So I wouldn't want to encourage it, frankly. I think both forms are their own thing, and I think it's much more, you can't beat a great book.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How interesting was this film to cast? Because every character seems to be so suited to their actor. It was a long process. I know Eddie was in everybody's mind from the beginning.
Eddie was there from the get-go. It was a long journey. It always is. You know, you want to find the right people. Finding Jacob was tricky. I met so many actors for Jacob, and I auditioned a number, and we put a number through different screen tests. And towards the end of the process, when we were getting very close to shooting, I didn't have Jacob. And I was really nervous because he's such an important part of the movie and the storytelling. And I'd seen Dan Fogler right at the beginning, and I brought him back right at the very end, and he never quite left my head. But when I saw him, he had a big beard, he sort of was a bit of a goth, he was very loud. He sort of came into the room in his first audition in Los Angeles, and he was extraordinary, but so far removed from Jacob as a human being that I was so impressed by his sort of ability as a sort of comedian and as an actor, but I didn't see him as Jacob. So I brought him back right at the end of the process and said, listen, I want you to be really quiet and just try and play Jacob in a really straight kind of way. And of course he was wonderful. So it took me a long time to find Jacob and a long time to find Queenie. Those were the trickiest roles. Great.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
we still have
great.
Fantastic. Yeah. So if we are gearing up for 4 more, what
yes.
are you hoping to achieve in this one?
In the first film?
No, in this series of films.
Oh gosh, well, you know what? I don't want to give too much away, and Joe's still conceiving the arc. So I think, you know, you just said the great thing about not having the books is you don't quite know what's coming up next, and there's a real pleasure in that. So that would be my case now. I don't want to give too much away.
And what would you say you enjoyed most about this time, this process? Because there's less, I don't know, it's a different kind of challenge from Harry Potter.
I love setting up the world, actually. I love casting it from scratch. I love defining the tone, and I love the fact that it's Potter, but it's grown up. And for me, it moves it on in quite an interesting way that will still appeal to all the people who love Potter, but who have maybe grown up with it. And I think that's quite fun.